In this episode, we are going to discuss the Star Wars of upstream oil and gas corporations, the balance of power between lawyers and non-lawyers, between lawyers and procurement department. Smart Contracts blog. The bright side of contracting in oil and gas. Welcome to the Smart Contracts blog. I will talk about the balance of powers still through the story, and the story is about the negotiations of a very simple cementing contract. Special thanks to HAB project. Located here in the heart of the Mexico City, HAB is the unique and unparalleled platform for connection, creation, and innovation. Thank you very much for hosting the filming of the Smart Contracts blog. A certain upstream oil and gas operator has on a sole source basis, have tried to contract with a certain contractor for brief and quite inexpensive in upstream terms cementing services on certain number of wells. The operator has a certain practice of imposing its own terms and conditions on all contractors it deals with. So the contractor, despite the fact of being sole sourced and being very, very urgently requested to help on an urgent basis, the contractor has received a contract that was already signed by the operator. The contractor looked at the terms and conditions through the lawyer's eyes and found that many things can be accepted due to the short period of the services provision. However, there was one specific risk that was imposed on the contractor that contractor could not accept. The risk for reservoir damage was imposed on the contractor, who was supposed to come and perform cementing of the well before that well will be rebuilt or sidetracked or any other further operations were going to be developed on that well. In traditional risk allocation in upstream oil and gas, contractors cannot bear the risk of damaging the reservoir, and lawyers of the contractor were raised by traditions in upstream oil and gas. So they went to their bosses and they said, hey bosses, you cannot accept this risk. It's a risk of reservoir damage. It's huge. Most probably 99%, the operator, before starting the project, had to provide insurance to the host government, which allowed this operator to come and sign the contract with the host government. And part of the contract between the operator and the host government was to provide an insurance for reservoir, because no government, no country, no host country, the recipient of investment, can allow the operator to destroy its reservoir without a certain proper insurance in place. It took the oilfield services contractor 2.5 months to go back to the legal team of the operator. And not only legal team, there was a legal team and there were business people and procurement people all together, those end users who needed the cementing services urgently, the legal team who was insisting that the reservoir damage must be covered as a risk by the contractor, and there was a procurement team trying to kind of get into the neutrality of the situation, but the contractor could not nudge. Contractor has a certain controls in place before accepting the risk. The risk has to be signed off by certain layers of management who were advised properly by their lawyers that risk is something that contractor cannot take. For about $250,000 contract, no way. In this story, the contractor managed to convince the operator, and the operator's legal team nudged and said, yeah, we do have an insurance for the reservoir damage, and yes, contractor, we do have to provide that insurance before we sign the agreement with the host government, with the country. None of your business, by the way, they added. which it was the business of the contractor. It was the best way to explain to the operator that contractor is very well aware that the risk for the reservoir damage is borne traditionally, and in almost 99% of the upstream dealings would be insured by the operator, with hire of certain agencies that make an assessment of the reservoir before you pay to the underwriters. You basically assess the reservoir, you assess how much oil and gas and hydrocarbons is in that reservoir, how maybe inflammable they are, how dangerous they are. Not my expertise, but I would say that any insurance for such a large amounts of money as to cover the reservoir damage would need a lot of preparatory work. Would the oil field contractor be able to deliver to conduct that preparatory work without ever needing to deal with reservoirs at all? I don't think so. So the story ended sort of positively for the contractor, and contractor has changed the contract and the terms where operator accepted that they will be responsible for the reservoir damage, and they accepted that the insurance had to be provided by them, so they do have the insurance. However, both parties have lost 2.5 months negotiating and arguing. In this case, there was no balance in the operating organization, in the organization of the operator. There was no balance between legal team, who was insisting on their own way of looking at things, and procurement team and end users. It's only with the balance of those teams, the unbalanced position of the lawyers overprotecting against certain risks, trying too hard to impose the risks on the contractors, could have been balanced by the procurement team or by end users, who frankly sometimes just know better, or are in the circumstances where they serve as a very good balancing point, and in this balancing act they can serve as a very good information source for their own experience in very similar dealings and similar contracts. In this case, there was no balance, so the losses of 2.5 months were not that much on the contractor, who didn't earn $250,000 on day X, but earned it in 100 days from there. But the operator could not do well with that well on time, and I'm pretty sure the losses were much greater than the contractor's losses. For more eye-opening and useful and helpful information on the contracts and contractual terms and conditions, and what is the balanced position, where you can actually find that balance when both parties are wasting time in negotiating and trying to prove that black or white is more correct and black is more correct than white. They're actually a very balanced, very known fairness point, as I call it, in upstream oil and gas. And to learn more about that, join my online course, which is launched by the time that you are watching this episode, and see you in other episodes of the Smart Contracts blog. Thank you very much.